Today, we just got the opening for the new season of JoJo's bizarre adventure, Golden Wind, and as we all know, JoJo's OP are known for having tons of reference to some of the events that happen throughout the progression of its plot. It should come as no surprise that the new OP would have the same kind of things, and, well, it has. So in this video, I will try to list everything that may reference stuff that happens in the story. So yeah, beware of spoilers for JoJo Part 5 Vento Aureo. With that out of the way, let's get started. We're off to a great start here with heavy spoilers, and well, since the beginning of the OP, why not start with the beginning of the manga? At the start of the opening we can see the stand rolling stone shaped like Bruno, depicting his death. This is a reference to the prologue of the manga, chapter 190. I think it's really cool that they start the opening with the prologue of the manga that is actually like the last chapter that was released for part 5. So at the start of the OP we see a stand arrow, but somewhat a different kind of stand arrow. This one has no stick. Its head is connected to a bunch of chains, 7 to be exact. Since the main theme of Vento Aureo is fate and how you can sometimes trap people, I think it's safe to assume that throughout the opening the chains represent the fate that is trapping our main characters. In regards to the arrow, I think those 7 chains are used to represent our main cast, which is of course made up of 7 characters: Giorno, Mista, Bruno, Abacho, Fugo, Narancia, and Trish, since he joins the gang later on. The next scene is one with Giorno, and he has his hands covered with blood. This blood then drips to the floor and chains come out of the blood puddles that are formed. I think this might actually represent Giorno's relation to Dio, since Giorno may feel guilty for being the son of a man that was so cruel to everyone. So basically, I think the chains represent the literal blood bond that exists between Giorno and his father. The next scene to appear is one where Mista runs with his gun and finds himself surrounded by chains. In my opinion, that represents the event that trapped Mista to the gangster world. The event itself was when Mista was a 17-year-old boy and tried to save a woman that was being raped by 3 men. In the act of trying to save her, Mista ended up killing the 3 men that could not hit him with their bullets for no apparent reason. Well, later on we discovered that it was actually his stand acting on its own, but in that time he didn't know. By killing the 3 men, Mista was sent to jail, and from that point onwards he could never go back to his old life, and then he later joined Passion. Following that, we have a scene in which we can see Trish falling while she's enveloped by chains in a double helix form. That is obviously a reference to the fact that she is trapped by fate, since she is a daughter of one of the most powerful stand users in the world, Diavolo, the boss of Passion. Later on the OP we get a scene in which we can see Abacho trapped inside Hourglass. That is a direct reference for the fact that Abacho's past is what traps him to fate. As we all know, Abacho used to be a good cop, but one day he just gave himself to corruption and that ended up destroying his whole life, because that led to the death of his partner, and that death would haunt him for his entire life. It is also important to note that you can actually see Abacho killing his past self. The next scene we have is one with Narancia on it. The scene itself is not that complex, it's just only a loop in which we can see some chains over Narancia's eyes. I believe that the fact that they are placed over his eyes, more specifically, and that his eyes alternate in the opening, appear in the left one and then the right one and so on and so forth, represents the event that caused him to join Passion and be trapped by fate. As we know, Narancia's life got pretty hard when his mom, the only person that truly cared for him, died from an eye disease. Yeah, an eye disease. Later on in his life, Narancia would go to get a similar disease that attacked his eyes. And if it weren't for Bruno or Fugo for taking him to the hospital, he would have died. Well, I think that scene speaks for itself, right? The loop represents Narancia's fate being almost the same as his mom. Next one is with Fugo. In this scene we can see 2 images of Fugo that are mirrored, and they move a bit, then they separate from each other, leaving space for a 3rd image of Fugo to appear. This 3rd image depicts a somewhat dark image of him. So let's talk about the first 2 images. The mirror part could be a reference to the first fight that we see Fugo in Vento Aureo, that is the fight against the man in the mirror. Not only that, but the scene could also show Fugo's duality in being loyal or not to Passion, since, as we all know, he dropped out of Bruno's group because he couldn't bring himself to betray Diavolo, an action that he would later on regret as we got to know in the Purple Haze feedback light novel. Finally, the distorted image of Fugo that we get to see could be referencing Fugo's image duality, since he appears to be really formal and polite, while actually he has a rather explosive hidden personality, being really short-tempered. A thing that was reflected in his stand, Purple Haze, a stand that in fact he really hates. As for the Bruno scene that comes right after, I don't really have much to say. This might be stretching a bit, but the color swap that we have in this scene along with the deletion of Bruno's facial elements could be reference to the zombification that Bruno undergoes later in the series when JoJo's revives him, but I don't really know. It might be stretching too much. The following scene shows JoJo turning some chains into vines that are full of life. That obviously represents his main role in the part, showing that yes, fate will be always trapping us in some way, but we can work around it just like our main cast did. Seems like each member of the cast underwent like a really big change in their lives, but they managed to work it out. Then we have some scenes in which you can see everyone showing off their stand, their powers, etc. Nothing really important here. One thing to note is that just after this scene we can see Trish. That could also be hinting at her getting her stand later on in the series, which actually happens since she gets Spice Girl. The scene is one of the most important in the entire OP actually, showing the main cast walking as some vines in their back. Then when the journal previously created from chains, turn back to chains again, which represents one of the most important messages in Vento Aureo. Fate cannot be avoided. This message is the last one that is given to us and really speaks with the part's main villain, Diavolo, who thinks he can be above fate and control everything. So yeah guys, that was it, that was my take on the new JoJo's OP. I really liked it, but I don't think I quite got everything out of it, so I would be really glad if you guys would tell me in the comments what I missed. Maybe someone else got something that I didn't. It'd be really nice to get to know.